First of all, I want to make this very clear. I want to make two disclaimers. One, I know there is an ongoing war between the TYT, the Young Turks, Jimmy Dore, the Grey Zone, etc., and I'm not trying to jump the wagon of any of this conflicting side. I have my own wagon on Syrian analysis, and I've been since 2017 reporting for you what's going on in Syria and what could happen in Syria. The second thing is, because I posted, my last video was also about the Young Turks and their false reporting about the Syrian presidential elections. And there were some of the comments on Twitter were telling me that I'm criticizing Ana Kasparian and her colleague Francesca because they're women, and this is a misogynistic behavior. Guys, this is very ridiculous. I don't know how people think nowadays, and I don't understand these arguments at all, because on my channel, you know that I've been also criticizing a lot of pundits on Syria, those who call themselves pundits, of course, and the vast majority of them are men. So this has nothing to do with genders, guys. Please keep genders away from this discussion, okay? And if you think that it's okay to humiliate Ana Kasparian because she's a woman, that's also not acceptable on my channel. So Ana Kasparian, before that, let me tell you something. As a journalist or someone who works in the public field, when you make a statement or you post a reporting about any topic, and after some time that the reporting that you made or you posted proves to be false, you retract that reporting and you also post apology. That's how you gain the respect of your audience, and not only your audience but also people who disagree with you. And this is what I do on Syrian analysis. When we are wrong, we say we are wrong. But for Ana Kasparian, it seems to me that instead of correcting her false reporting on the Syrian presidential elections, which were all based on mainstream media sources and CIA talking points, she's continuing to dig in her own, the grave of her own career, and I really can't really help her anymore. If she wants to do that, let her do that. Now, she posted another video to prove that her previous reporting was accurate, and she hosts an expert on Syria. Expert. His name is Patrick Hilsman. So I will talk about this guy later and what was he doing in the past years. So she says one can be an anti-interventionist, but at the same time she can criticize dictatorships. Okay, that's fine. However, in the previous video, she agreed with her colleague Francesca that the United States should sideline dictators and promote democracy in other countries, but instead of arming rebels, she wants to sideline or remove legitimate governments through diplomacy. This is also interference. This is like a peak imperialism too in your brain. You are infected with intellectual imperialism, and you think that you have the moral superiority to tell the Syrians how should they govern themselves and what is right and what is wrong and what lifestyle should they have. I mean, what kind of arrogance is this? Who the fuck are you to tell the Syrians how should they live and which political system suits them? You're also infected with imperialism, but you don't know that. You don't know. Or maybe you know, you're just trying to fool around with the left-wing people and try to sell yourself as a left-wing anti-imperialist person, but you're an imperialist. Period.
What is the role of internationalism right now? What is the role we want the United States to play? For sure, we are against intervention. We're against imperialism. But what is the role? How can we, strengthen the international community so that, we can actually, sideline dictators and promote people who agree with democracy, right? But in a diplomatic way, not in an arming rebels kind of way. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
So the first question that Ana Kasparian posed to the so-called expert on Syria, Patrick Hilsman, so she says, what was the motive of Assad for using chemical weapons? So she concluded that it was a chemical attack, despite the fact that every single investigator and researcher of the OPCW who were underground in Eastern Ghouta, in Douma, in 2018 said the opposite of that. They said it was staged, there were no chemical attack back then, and we don't know how these people died. And this Patrick Hilsman, he was never been anywhere close to Eastern Ghouta. He was never been to Douma, so how the fuck he knows? He never conducted any actual journalism. I will talk about him later in detail. So this map is the map of control on Eastern Ghouta on the 31st of March 2018. That means 1 week before the alleged chemical attack on Douma or in Douma on the 7th of April 2018. Now, militarily speaking, as you can see, Douma is like an island. It's surrounded by the Syrian army, and any military expert would tell you that this area will fall in a matter of days, maximum in a matter of 2 weeks. Because first of all, it's not only besieged, but also the neighboring areas are all liberated, and therefore this area do not have an access to the outside world and cannot have any reinforcement in terms of military equipment or ammunition, etc. Therefore, it was a matter of time for the Syrian army, a matter of days for the Syrian army to liberate this area. But what happened is there was an alleged chemical attack on the 7th of April 2018, and the military operation of the Syrian army stopped, and there was a high diplomatic and political pressure on Syria, UN Security Council meeting, and then illegal bombing of Syria by the US, France, and the UK. So the Syrian army stopped the operation for a few days back then. And as you can see, politically speaking, it's counterproductive to conduct such an attack on Douma because it led to foreign intervention, and you know it will lead to foreign intervention. Militarily speaking, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you are already days away from liberating that area, number one. Number two, let's suppose you want to use chemical weapons. You will use it on the Islam's army terrorists, right? But it didn't happen. It's been allegedly used against 50 civilians. 49 civilians died, and we don't know how these people died till today. So politically speaking and militarily speaking, they don't make any sense. But this Patrick Hilsman, he thinks that because he's a Western journalist and because he sees things from an Orientalist and racist lens, and I want to repeat this, from an Orientalist and racist lens, he thinks that he knows better than the actual army officers, commanders, generals, and even the president of Syria, because they see us in the Middle East in an arrogant and superior way that gives them the conviction that they even understand military operations underground, where the fact is, this Patrick Hilsman, that Ana Kasparian says he was based in Syria, which he wasn't. He was never been based in Syria. He used to visit Syria, that's different. And he used to sneak into Syria, infiltrate into Syria in an illegal way from Turkey to eastern Aleppo. And when he was in eastern Aleppo between 2012 and 2014 or 15, the neighborhoods of eastern Aleppo were occupied by al-Nusra, which is the offshoot of Al-Qaeda, by Nurdin al-Zinki and other terrorist organizations. So when you want to come into Syria and arrive to eastern Aleppo, then you have to pass by the checkpoints of Al-Qaeda, right? So my question is to you, Patrick Hilsman, who was letting you in eastern Aleppo? Were you coordinating with Al-Qaeda? And also, who let you infiltrate into and sneak into Syria from Turkey? Were you also coordinating with Erdogan's intelligence agencies? These are questions that we need to pause to and ask Patrick Hilsman before giving him the credit or trying to give him a title, a pundit on Syria. It was really funny, really. So this guy was in eastern Aleppo, and as you can see in the picture, he was very relaxed sitting in eastern Ghouta while al-Nusra, al-Qaeda terrorists were firing thousands of missiles, rockets, hell cannons on the residential neighborhoods on the greater Aleppo, and they have killed over 13,000 civilians in 4 years between 2012 and 2016, and their names, birthdays, everything is documented by the Syrian Ministry of Health and by the hospitals. And did Patrick Hilsman by any chance reported about these incidents of firing hell cannons on greater Aleppo and killing the civilians? No. Did he report about the lynching of civilians in the streets in eastern Aleppo because they didn't go for a Friday prayer? No. Did he report about the abuses committed by these terrorist groups? No. Did he report about the slaughtering, beheading, decapitating 12-year-old Palestinian boy in eastern Aleppo by Nuruddin Zinki, which was supported and funded by the United States? No. What kind of journalist are you? What were you doing in Aleppo? You were promoting and whitewashing Al-Qaeda jihadists there, alongside that American clown, I even forgot his name, that he was recently now released by Al-Qaeda itself after whitewashing Al-Qaeda for many years. What kind of journalism is this? And then someone like Ana Kasparian comes and gives him this platform to whitewash again the crimes of the rebels or the terrorists in Syria. And this Patrick Hilsman, when he was in Aleppo, he was a regular guest also on the Erdogan-funded TYT World. It's pretty obvious that this guy was very close to Al-Qaeda. He was very close to the jihadists who were funded and supported by Turkey in Aleppo. And he was a regular guest on TYT, the Turkish channel. This gives you the impression what kind of person is this Patrick Hilsman. And as for Ana Kasparian, I mean, it's no more surprising for me. I mean, an Armenian person working for a channel called the Young Turks, one of the major perpetrators of the Armenian genocide, nothing should surprise you anymore. It's an upside down world, man. Anyways, this was the clarifications that I wanted to post for you. If you're new, guys, please consider subscribing. Even if you think you're subscribed, please check. It really helps me when you subscribe. And if you want to support Syriana Analysis financially, you can become my patron. The link in the description below. I'm not the TYT that gets $20 million to parrot CIA talking points. I'm an independent journalist, and my Syriana Analysis work is 100% funded by you. I've been Almassian of Syriana Analysis. See you next time.